It's your weekly breakaway for fun conversations on pro cycling. Come and join us for another ride in the team bus. I'm Matt Harper, and together with my brother Justin, we'll do deep-ish dives on professional bike races, teams, riders, and all sorts of cycling-related stories. And we might just sprinkle in some other shiny pop cultural objects along the way. So jump in the saddle and tighten up those shoes. The road awaits. Allez! Hello and welcome to the Team Bus. I'm Matt and this is my brother Justin, and today on the bus we're talking cycling, real cycling that has just happened recently. Yes, it's the Australian National Championships, the annual precursor to the actual opening event of the season, the Santos Tour Down Under, which starts in just a couple of days. So we'll use the opportunity of the Aussie Natty Champs to bang the rust off of our cycling analytical skills today as we get into our takes on the TTs and the road races. Then we'll take a look at a certain cyclocross event that took place recently that really caught our attention when we saw the still frame used for the title shot of the YouTube video. We just had to dig in. We'll also have a brief news roundup, and as always, we'll finish out with more adventures in the Broom Wagon. Allez! All right, welcome to the show. I'm Matt. I'm here with my brother Justin, and it's finally happened. After more than a year of podcasting, we have had our first instance of recording an entire show, two entire shows.
Shows.
Something happened, and those files are corrupted. So this is our second pass at it. So if you detect a little lackluster, a little bit of ho hum in our tone of voice today,
disdain.
That is why, because we have already talked about all this stuff once. Well, we're gonna go for it again. It's Australian National Road Championships weekend, or it was this past weekend. And for myself, I felt great to be watching bike races again.
Agreed.
You know, the season is upon us. Everyone in my feed, my cycling feeds are all very excited to be talking cycling as well. So let's get into it. They started off with the time trials. None of these were available to watch live to us, so I watched everything in replay. And the time trials, to be perfectly honest, like I'm not going to watch a replay of the Australian National Time Trials. I'll check out the quick highlights. The highlight in a time trial consists of a couple of shots of people riding their bikes by themselves,
and going under the gantry.
Yes, nothing really exciting to see. So in the women's, we had a win from a little-known rider from Czech, Felicity Wilson-Haffenden. I don't know that I was familiar or even aware of this particular rider. Were you?
No. This was news to me. But she was able to put the work in and hold everybody else off and come out with a national championship for Little Czech.
Yeah, I'm sure Little Czech was quite pleased with that, because I don't really think they came away with much else beyond this for the entire weekend. Brody Chapman of UAE ADQ was in second, and Josie Talbot, who figured in the women's elite road race, got third. So that was your podium on the women's side. On the men's, not a huge surprise to see one Jay Vine from Team UAE Emirates taking the green and yellow bands in this one. Jay Vine's time trialing has just gotten better and better, and we here on this podcast have always been big fans of Jay Vine's ever since he burst on the scene via the Zwift Academy route. So good on Jay Vine for getting that.
He's also I don't think there could be a nicer, there's not many nicer people than Jay Vine in the pro peloton, and the guy is just constant, ray of sunshine anytime he's interviewed, anytime he pops up and has anything to say. He's just all around good dude.
Yeah, total sweetheart. Always has a smile on his face. He's got a wonderful relationship. His wife was like his big support. It was basically his support team, his one woman support team when he was coming up, and she is oft times there at the finish line when he gets a big result. So good on him. Ali Bledin takes the silver. He also figured in the men's road race a couple days later. So good on Ollie Bledin for being omnipresent, and Kellen O'Brien of Jaco Alula takes third. Jaco Alula traditionally is all over these races, as they are the big Aussie team. They've got both a men's and a women's squad for that team. So no surprise seeing them present on the podiums, both third places actually, because Josie Talbot rides for Jaco Alula as well. So probably not as good as they would have hoped for the first part of this cycling weekend, but there they are. So let's jump into the road races, and we'll begin with the men's U23 road race. In Australia, they break the U23 race out as its own race for the men. However, for the women, the U23 and the women's elite are basically the same race. They all race
I
on.
assume that's a numbers thing, right? It's got to be a numbers thing there.
I guess so. I would imagine. So the first big surprise for me in watching the men's UT23 road race was that Matt Keenan, the show's host, came on. He introduced Dave McKenzie, and in the third spot was one Caleb Ewan, already on the call in his retirement. He just retired last year, as we discussed recently, after two crazy big wins for Ineos Grenadiers, his final team that he raced for last year. He just inexplicably announced his retirement. He comes back, he gets two big wins in a couple of days of racing. We're all stoked to see Caleb Ewan just tearing it up, once again, and he retires.
Do you think that it is mostly because it's Australia? Do you think he'll pop up anywhere else, in the mix with, will Caleb Ewan end up on a call with Jez Cox sometime?
I think that it's possible. I doubt that we will see Caleb Ewan calling races out. I should say he may be calling World Tour races all year long for Australian broadcasting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I don't think that we will be hearing, unless he could be at Tour Down Under. We could be hearing him next week, the week after for the Tour Down Under, because that's taking place in Australia. Who knows? But interesting to see Caleb on the call, and I thought he acquitted himself pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't blowing my mind with insights. He was pretty convinced that at least of one guy that he said was going to win fairly early on in the men's race. That did not come to pass. But nonetheless, cool to see Caleb up there on the call. This was
and you have to give it to him. For somebody that hasn't been doing broadcasting before, he did a very good job.
Yeah. It's interesting to see these guys retiring younger and younger. I watched a fair bit of pro football highlights over the past week or so, and was watching some video. It was 20 of the smartest plays in football history or something, people just doing kind of genius stuff on football fields, which was cool to watch. Like a guy who stood there just holding the ball, knowing that the play had not been called dead, even though everybody on the field had assumed it was. He just stood there holding the ball and waited for everybody to chill out, and then took off down the field at a blaze of lightning to get a touchdown. But one of the things that I saw was there's some player, he's a receiver for some team, and he very regularly just takes a slide rather than getting tackled, because he's trying to protect his head. He doesn't want to get hit with huge hits. He'll grab a big reception, get a few yards upfield, get a first down, and as he's about to be creamed, he just goes into a slide. He's nah, not risking the rest of my life on this one football play.
I mean,
and
That is always my big argument about football is that everybody's like these guys get paid too much, and I'm like they don't get paid enough, man. Because I'm telling you right now, a couple $1 million isn't enough to put my brain health on the line.
Yeah, no, it's wild. So, and I suspect that retirements like Caleb's are sort of in that same vein. Guys saying like, what is the point of me taking on this kind of risk? Um, for another X number of years for what?
Oh yeah, I mean,
My my
I think we
heyday is
said it at the
past.
time that it's likely that his heart just wasn't in it.
Yeah. Well, and you got your Chris Froome types who are at the opposite end of the spectrum that just cannot let go long beyond when they should.
Yeah.
Um, so
In
the
in
men's
Fr-
U20.
in Froome's case, though, I feel like it's tarnishing his legacy, in my opinion. But
I don't know if it's tarnishing it. I think most people are pretty indifferent to it. It just seems sad. Like,
mm,
he achieved what he achieved, and that's not going anywhere. It's just weird. Just seems weird and sad that he's out there. Um, the men's U23 race was fairly I mean, not super exciting. There was a big breakaway group. It got whittled down to like 3 leaders. Um, and Jackson Medway, your eventual winner of Tudor Pro Cycling, made a kind of a cheeky move with 7.4 kilometers to go. He's locked up with these two other guys. Knew that he was pretty even against them in a sprint, but that he was a superior time trialist to the both of them. And so he figured I'm gonna hit out a little early, see if I can get some separation, and then try to time trial my way into a big enough gap that they won't catch me. And that's exactly what he did. Within a couple kilometers, it was pretty apparent that nobody was catching him as his gap was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We had Noah Balanin in second and Dylan Proctor Parker getting third. This Jackson Medway kid, super enthusiastic in his post-race interview, absolutely thrilled to be pulling on a national champions jersey, even if it is the U23 only. But good on him. Anything to add to the U23
no, I
men's
didn't
before
see
we
it.
jump into yeah.
I did, however, I watched the criterium, and I just have to say, man, like it's a great way to introduce yourself to cycling. If you want like an exciting version of cycling, well, watch yourself a criterium because they're shorter. They're typically inside of like city centers. There's lots of turns, and they're very exciting. They're very exciting to watch. The Maryland Cycling Classic comes to mind when I watch it. When I was watching this, the style of race that is, where you get that crit style race,
laps
and
of a laps
yeah,
of a downtown
and
circuit kind of a thing.
it's
I mean, it's essentially it's like it's like a cyclocross race on the road,
yeah, and
you know.
it's a different vibe because like they're typically later in the day. It's I don't know. There's just something really special about them. But if you're like trying to introduce yourself to cycling, that's a great way, man. Watch a couple of crit races because
Yeah,
they are.
the loop on a crit race is usually shorter. Like
Mhm.
they're usually only like 2 or 3 kilometers long versus like, a regular road race. A lot of times we've been seeing a lot more road races that end in a city with a circuit added to it. But generally speaking, those circuits will be, 10, 12, 14
Right.
kilometers long versus a crit circuit, which is like real short. So they're great for the viewers because you get the riders coming by like almost constantly,
Mhm.
which is cool. I remember I saw a lower level criterium race in Pensacola, Florida, where I used to live years ago. Um, and it was kind of funny. We were just kind of walking around to various vantage points as the race was going on, and there was the parents of one of the riders that were there, and every time. Every time he came past, you could hear his mom going, get in your drops, Bradley. Bradley, get in your drops." Kind of funny. Um, so I know Ruby Roseman Gannon won on the women's side for the crit, and on the men's it was who was it?
I honestly I don't have it in my notes.
It was the guy from uh, we talked about him last week. Anyways, um, So the as I mentioned, the women's elite road race was also coupled with the U23 race, and as it turned out, the winner of this race was also under 23. So she took home not one but two
Yeah,
national
both.
champions jerseys. Um, but I kind of did not watch the entirety of this race. I picked it up with around 15 kilometers to go when you had Caitlin Nicholson and Josie Talbot of Jayco out in front with two chasers behind them, Mackenzie Coupland and Tiffany Cromwell, 55 seconds back. Uh, Talbot dropped Nicholson at the start of the final lap. This was also a circuit course situation, but it was about a 10, 12, 15 kilometer circuit. Um,
Talbot
Tal-
Talbot was the first one to get away from the main group.
yeah.
There was, Brady Chapman attacked around 80K, and Neve Bradbury and Ruby Roseman Gannon was also in the mix, but Talbot was the first one to really get away. Um, they had a three rider break that went steady through about 58 up to like the 58K mark, and then around 50K, the chase started to form. Um, it really got exciting though towards the end of the race.
Yeah, well, you had, as I said, Talbot and Nicholson ended up out in front by themselves. Talbot was able to drop Nicholson, and but very close behind her, Mackenzie Coupland was making a strong move to bridge up to her. They were both on the same team, Jayco, and so it kind of introduced a little bit of intrigue. Are these two going to be able to get together and work together to hold everybody off? It became very apparent that Talbot did not have it on the day, because Coupland bridged up to her. It looked like there was just the briefest of exchanges between them. Coupland got in front of her, and there was really no effort on Talbot's part to stay on Coupland's wheel.
Well,
So
Coupland like blasted off like a rocket, and when she caught Talbot, she just blew right past her. I mean, she was gone. Amanda Spratt was attempting to bridge over, was trying to get across and couldn't do it.
in her
Um,
in her final Australian national champions race, as she is retiring at the end of this year.
and Neve Bradbury was also there trying to make a final effort to get in there. But it seemed like once Coupland had blown past Talbot, there was no doubt that they were going to do it. And it's funny is that and we'll get into it as we get into the men's. Very similar situation happened in the men's. The problem is, or the benefit to the ladies was they executed the the ending much better than the men did.
Well, I also think that Coupland was a bit stronger than the gentleman who found himself out in front in the men's race. We'll get into
Yeah,
all the problems with that, but Coupland was just the strongest person on the day, no question about it. There was a trio that kind of came together, trying to chase her down inside of 5Ks to go. That was Neve Bradbury, Caitlin Nicholson, who was figuring earlier, and Ruby Roseman Gannon. They were about 30 seconds back with 5 kilometers to go, but they were not really making any headway onto Coupland's gap over them. And Coupland indeed hangs on for the win. Roseman Gannon sprints against Bradbury for second and beats her. Neve Bradbury in third. That means Jayco gets the 1-2. Ruby Roseman Gannon rides for Jayco as well.
yeah.
Um,
And Neve Bradbury rides for Canyon Shram, so that rounds out your podium.
yeah, and I don't recall Ruby Roseman Gannon leading out Neve Bradbury at any point. I don't recall Ruby Roseman Gannon trying to bridge up to her teammate at any point uh, during this race.
You don't
So
remember her dragging Ruby Roseman Gannon like up?
you mean Neve Bradbury? No. Um, So that said, we will get into the men's elite road race. Before we get started, a few things that I wanted to mention. First and foremost, my first look at the new NSN kit, which we have talked about
Mm-hmm.
uh, prior to this. I'm very excited for this kit. Really, really cool looking. Gives me the was it the Gulf livery vibes?
Yeah, orange and blue.
Yeah, Gulf livery vibes, and it was looking real sweet out there. And then I also wanted to mention the sighting of the Teletubbies at the side of the road. There was a group of like 12 drunken Australian dudes, all dressed as Teletubbies, all on the side of the road, screaming and yelling. Um, so that was kind of funny. And I feel like there was something that you mentioned
Yeah, did
yesterday.
you? I'm guessing that you did. You well, I mean, we talked about it yesterday. The penny farthing.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Did
yeah,
you
yeah.
go? Did you go?
No, you gotta put a, or no, there's no, I was gonna say put a link in, but that was just like something that you caught during the
Yeah, it
race.
was just something that caught. It was 86.5K in the YouTube replay. If you guys want to watch it, um, but there
It was
was
a
a
penny
unicycle.
penny farthing, and what was the other
It was a
thing?
unicycle. So there was two guys that were coming up the coast on the coast road on the loop, and the first thing you see is the guy on the unicycle hauling ass, and then just in front of him was a guy on a penny farthing just going crazy. And I was like, I love this. This is like one of my favorite parts about cycling is you get these little roadside happenstances.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I absolutely love it as well. Um, so you want to, I think you watched the race from a little further back than I did. You want to
Yeah,
start
so
getting
at
into it?
135K, there was the break was starting to form, and then finally a huge breakaway got started with the likes of Harper, O'Connor, and Durbridge, and all those guys were all in there. Um, then at 68.7 is where my note says Ben O'Connor took off, launched what I thought at the time was going to be like one of these, far off, you know, attacks that solo attacks. It didn't end up being that. He ended up getting pulled back in. And then at 40K was when Durbridge took off. So he launched, and in my opinion, that put O'Connor in a really good position because if Durbridge doesn't have it, then you've got he can what I mean. You've got him, and eventually you have Luke Plapp in the rear view. So you've got three riders, all positioned, all good racers, all used to this course. It looked like it was going to be Jayco for the women and Jayco for the men.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they had huge numbers. I mean, both races, Jayco was just omnipresent all over the front of the race with like multiple riders. The purple was flying high, um, and I don't know what it is when these teams get into this, and the tactics are quite clear in these instances. This is like cycling 101. Get a guy out front by himself, and then the rest of your riders can sit on the wheels and cover moves. Like it is it's just as simple as it gets. But that is not exactly what happened. Durbridge got his gap with around 30 kilometers to go. I think it was like right at the start of the penultimate lap
Mm-hmm.
is when that it seemed like that was the spot to make moves in this race because it was a little bit of an uphill drag. Yeah, and he gets that gap up to a minute. Um,
It was more
there's
than
a
that at
chasing
one point.
he was over a minute. There's a chasing group that ultimately came down to four guys. You had
Plappy,
Durbridge out front, and then you had two guys from his team, Luke Plapp and
Ben O'Connor.
aforementioned Ben O'Connor, and then you got two guys from this team Brennan, Ollie Bledden, who was second in the men's TT, and Patrick Eddy, right? So Team Brennan is like a
Continental team.
Australian continental team. Um, Patrick Eddy had ridden for Picnic Post NL for a couple of years prior to this, and had just moved this year to back to an Aussie continental team. Um, And so the four of them are kind of like 2 and 2 behind on the chase with of Durbridge, and this is when we start to see some inexplicably poor tactics on the part of Jayco
Well,
because
we mentioned when we were talking yesterday that maybe the race radios had something to do with it, or not, lack thereof as far as race radios. But I mean, there's no way that they don't know that Durbridge is out front. So why either of them takes a turn at all during this chunk of the race, I have no idea. Like I don't know where it would have benefited them in the least. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
I mean, if we're speculating about the whys, that what what was the decision, what was the thought process here? The only thing that I I can come up with is that Plapp thought that he could drop the other guys and then he could bridge up to Durbridge, and Durbridge was the defending champion. He's
Mhm.
wearing number one. Plappy, of course, is one of Australia's best riders, and
He may have
probably
come in
one.
second last year too. I can't remember.
Yeah, he of course wants wants a national champions jersey as well, and I would imagine that his status is a little higher than Durbridge's is at this time.
Mhm.
I think he was the favored rider on that team going into the race, so his thinking is probably I bridge up to Durbridge, we work together, I get the win, I'm national champion. But at the end of the day, that's not proper tactics, and the team wants the win. They don't Teams don't care who wins. Teams care that they win.
Yes.
Um and he was putting that win at risk by making that move. It looks, it comes off as looking a little selfish if you ask me. Um
Every
so
Like going into the final lap, everything looked great. Like it looked, exactly what you want to happen. And then in the first half of the last lap, it completely collapsed. And by I think it was like around 7K is where it was obvious that Durbridge was starting to fade, and the gap was coming down, and so you had to kind of wonder. But it was at that point where, at least for me, I was like, why are these guys? Because it literally looked like Luke Plapp was leading out Eddie. Like he was like pulling him along. Like here, let's both go bridge up to my teammate. That's what it looked like. Because he was doing so much work in those last 7K that it absolutely made no sense to me.
yeah, I mean, he as I said, it must have had an assumption that he could drop Patrick Eddy, and he is not dropping him and not dropping him and not dropping him. And at some point, it's like, bro, okay, this guy's stuck to your wheel, so let him catch Durbridge. I mean, the image to me that says it all is watching the helicopter shot as Durbridge is caught, not by Eddie, but by Luke Plapp. When
Yes.
Durbridge is caught, it is Luke Plapp blazing past him with Patrick Eddy on his wheel, and that says it all. Why is that happening, Luke Plapp? Why are you not behind Patrick Eddy when that catch is made? Why are you not sitting on his wheel,
Thank
giving
you.
yourself some kind of a chance? Because at that point, the only play left for Luke Plapp was to drop Eddy on that finishing climb. The way the race ended
That
was there was
draggy
like,
climb, but
well, there's a long climb and then a left turn. It was flat for a little bit and then it went uphill again to the finish. Is the way the profile played out, and it was already clear that they caught Durbridge on the long climb, and at that point it's already clear that this guy has got your number today. So why are you in front of him? Sit in his wheel, like get any kind of advantage you can from this guy. But instead, Plapp makes a bad gamble that he's going to be able to drop this dude up this climb. And Patrick Eddy, I wouldn't even say that he was yo-yoing. He wasn't glued to his wheel, but he was close enough. He was not yo-yoing
Yeah,
off
but
the
there's
back.
also he's also
Keeping it
spent
fairly close.
the last 7 kilometers essentially, you know, in Plapp's slipstream.
Hmm.
All right, so he's expending, they're close enough that he's definitely not expending the same energy that Plapp is. So when you get to the sprint situation, he doesn't stand a chance. Like
Yeah, and he
it's
wasn't.
not like it's not like it's close on the line. Okay, he he had time to sit up and put his arms out and the whole thing. All right, it wasn't close, and that's on Plapp,
Yeah,
100%.
big time. I mean, I wonder if like, it's not like this dude was just a guy that's been, muddling around in Australian, you know, Conti teams. Like this dude was on Picnic Post NL. Like he's been racing
Hmm.
in Europe in the World Tour for a couple of years now. Like he's not a
A
nobody. He's
slouch,
not a
yeah.
he's not a slouch. And yeah, Durbridge absolutely blew it. Uh, the whole team blew it, and I don't know. Obviously, there was no race radio, so you couldn't have had a DS on the radio doing, screaming at him, "What are you doing? Get behind him," or whatever. But still, man, like Luke Plapp, you've been around the block a few times. You also had Ben O'Connor right out there. Why is O'Connor not telling him, dude, like we got to chill here, like
Well, and
let's give Durbo a chance.
I'm sure I ended up watching the GCN racing show. Shout out Dan Lloyd. Um, Yesterday after we recorded.
As did I.
Um, and he said the same thing that I did, you know, when we were talking yesterday, which was that's going to be uncomfortable, afternoon on the team bus. And I hope it was. I hope it was super uncomfortable for Luke Plapp because, they could have, Jayco could have been riding with the green and yellow bands all year for both the men and the women. And, because of,
Should have been.
piss poor tactics, Eddie takes that jersey, and I hope he wears it with absolute pride because he got the better of the big team yesterday.
Yeah, he sure did. He sure did. And I kind of loved his post race interview. So they had a an incredibly enthusiastic young lady right in
She
the
was awesome.
finishing area doing like these immediate like post race
I
interviews.
think her name was Jenna
Um,
Watts. It's definitely Watts. I can't remember what her
he
first name
uh,
is.
he was pretty low key, just very chill. Had a big smile on his face the whole time, and she was sort of concluding each of her interviews with a kind of signature thing where it's like, "So you're going to be wearing the Australian National Championship jersey for the next year," and he just goes, "Not bad, eh?" So funny. Um, Credit to Durbo for making a nice gesture, having just been defeated so handily. Came up to him afterwards and gave him a hug after the interview. So good sportsmanship there. But man, Jaco blew it, and that, as you said, that was going to be one uncomfortable conversation around the dinner table for that
especially,
team that night.
especially, to me, it's like it's really wasted for all the work that Durbo and O'Connor did. You know what I mean? Like those are the guys that I feel the worst for because, poor Durbo did 40K on the front of that race and, for absolutely nothing. Just buried himself for no result.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the only good thing you can say about it is that it gave us an exciting race there at the
Yeah,
end.
no, it gave us
It
something to
was
talk about because it could have been a 50K breakaway or 40K breakaway and not come down to an exciting end. You're
Could have,
absolutely
should
correct.
have,
Yeah.
should have, but yeah, it gave us something to talk about. It was exciting there at the end. Although we kind of knew like if Luke let it get to a sprint that he probably wasn't going to win, and that is what happened.
Yeah.
Um, so well, that sets us up for next week when the women's Tour Down Under begins in earnest, and the men start as soon as the women
Walanga.
finish. So World Tour racing is coming our way. Um,
Walanga
so.
Hill, baby.
We'll
Let's
conclude it
go.
there. Next, we're going to be getting into a certain cyclocross race that we that we sort of stumbled upon, but which paid some interesting dividends for us. So we're going to get into that after the break. Stay with us. Don't miss Beyond the Slipstream, our weekly companion podcast to the Team Bus, our domestique, if you will, dropping every Saturday in your usual podcast feed. All right, we are back, and we are going to talk a little cross, a little culture. So we were having a little production meeting a couple of mornings ago, and while we were chatting, I was kind of scrolling through some videos on YouTube, and I saw one. The title screen. It was for a cyclocross race, and the title screen was really interesting because it appeared that the snow-covered course for this bike race was going right smack through the middle of like this giant rusting industrial something, right? And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I gotta take a closer look at this. And I click on it. I come to find out it is the Czech National Championships of Cyclocross.
Yeah, most of cyclocross had their national championships over the weekend.
Correct. And while I'm not, I barely follow cyclocross, let alone the Czech national cyclocross scene. I do not follow that. However, this looks so interesting. I wanted to click on it, and I come to find out as I start watching this race that they have built a cyclocross course, track, whatever you call it, right through the middle of what I learned is a now retired, it's a historic industrial complex. It's a steel mill,
Yeah, it's a
essentially.
foundry.
Yeah. And uh, and the course like winds in between the buildings and underneath these, cantilevered walkways.
Yeah,
And
it's unbelievable how
it's
they incorporated it into the existing structure.
yeah, I mean, there's, like stair climbing is a part of cyclocross, and there is at least one spot on that track where they're just going up some stairs that are like there
Yes.
at the thing. These were not constructed for
Yeah,
the race
and
as they usually are in cyclocross races.
they had converted some steps to be like ramps and like, you know, that's
It
not
was a very inventive.
the angle of the step of a set of steps is quite different than like, the typical angle of a cyclocross course. So some of these
Mhm.
drops were like extremely steep.
Yes, yes,
And it's snow covered. There's snow inside, there's snow outside. It was really, really a wild thing to behold.
absolutely. Yeah, it was so cool to see a race being played out at a place like this. It's just so creative, so inventive, bold, and of course, I'm more interested in the site than I am the bike race. I
Of
mean,
course.
I like watching the cyclocross race as much as the next guy, and this one was actually it's actually a fairly exciting race. I mean,
Yes,
it came down.
for me it was hard to get invested because I couldn't understand. Like I had no commentary. The commentary wasn't because obviously I don't speak Czech.
Did you put the English translate on the YouTube video?
No, I didn't even think to do
Yeah, you
that.
gotta use that. It works like a dream.
Ah, I didn't even think to. That would
Yeah,
have
so
made it
you could.
much better.
Mhm. It was pretty good. I have to admit the translating on YouTube is has gotten pretty strong. Um, well, so I sort of let the race run in the background as I dug into the site itself, and I learned a whole lot about it. So let me get into that. It is located in Ostrava, which is on the far east of the Czech Republic, very close to the Polish border, uh, and it's as I mentioned, a historic site. It's called Dolny Vitkovice Industrial Complex. It's an industrial heritage site and cultural monument. The the uh, the earliest version of like a steel plant that was on this site goes back to 1830.
That's
It's insane.
crazy.
They've been making steel there for centuries, literally. Um, so this particular portion of this massive complex is now, like, no, it's no longer used. I don't know what the term is. It's not retired. It's defunct, I guess. There is a steel
Decommissioned is probably.
decommissioned. Exactly. Yes. There is an actively operational steel making facility very close to there. This whole area is like a big like steel area for the that region. So there's an operational one there, and actually I'll just go ahead and mention now. I'm going to include a link in the show notes to a a website that has got some absolutely beautiful photography of the current plant and some great shots of it like in use, giant iron buckets, pouring molten steel into, giant molds and stuff like that. Some really, really cool stuff. Um, you know, the look of these kinds of places is just epic. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? There's a reason why they are turning this into a cultural monument. This is a cool thing to just stand and look at.
Yeah, because they were, these types of plants are massive. I've been inside of the one of the ones that's in what is that little town called? There's a little town outside of Pittsburgh where one of the big U.S. steel plants is, and I've been inside of it. I mean, it's so big, it's literally so big that the road goes through the plant. All right, like you
Yeah.
literally, like if you're trying to get to the office, you drive into the plant, like because the road goes through, and there's a parking
Right.
lot inside of the building, because it's so massive,
Crazy.
and so you can't. It's hard to appreciate the scale of the size of these buildings until you actually see one or experience one. But in the Pittsburgh region, there's a lot of old steel mills, and so it was very reminiscent of things that I've seen in Johnstown and in Pittsburgh, and it's wild, man. It's
Yeah,
something to behold.
and it's not just the scale of the thing. I mean, the scale is mind blowing, but it's also just for me, the complexity. I mean, there
Mhm.
are smokestacks and there are, you know, giant towers that are just built to hold like a piece of machinery. It's not even really a building.
Yeah,
It's building sized, and it's just got, and there's
structure.
there's platforms and there's cranes sticking out, and there's just like it's just like machinery.
Gantries that you can't even imagine the size.
Yeah. And then there's also like a very cool mixture of like materials, and different kinds of surfaces. I mean, there's of course steel girders everywhere that get that rusted out patina like almost immediately. But then there's, sheet metal, and there's giant brick, chimneys, and there's, stone walled
Yeah, and
older buildings
piping and
and
shit.
yes,
Piping as
piping. I
big
mean,
as you can imagine.
yeah, fencing and walkways and just, little indoor spaces that are perched atop big outdoor things. You know what I mean? Like you can look up there and say, oh, is there like a little office up there? Like it's just
Yeah.
wild. I mean, what I wouldn't give to be able to just walk around every square inch of one of those
Do you know
places to
what?
spend
Do
it.
you know what it reminds me of? Another thing that as we're talking about it, that reminds me of is where Dad worked.
Hmm.
You know, uh,
Yeah, massive complex.
yeah, our father worked for the Department of Navy as a civilian engineer at the David Taylor Research Center, and they had it. Just about every building you walked into was a massive building that had some sort of functionality for water. It was
Hmm.
an underwater testing facility, and you know the scale at which some of these industrial complexes are built is just unbelievable.
Well, yeah, I mean the one where our dad worked, it had a water tunnel in it that was like a mile long.
Yes,
Like that's a mile long building,
yes,
with all of the attendant stuff, that goes with it. It's just absolutely crazy. No. So at this place now, as I said, it's a cultural heritage site. There's a music venue there. They are building out a museum that will showcase a lot of the cultural heritage from that area and the steel making, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure that will be a spectacular museum. They are there's a thing. It's called the Bolt Tower, which sits atop blast furnace number one. They produced 1,200 tons of iron every day at that mill when it was operational. And atop this thing, they have built this like
That's
crazy
an
like
amazing amount of metal.
it is,
1,200 tons.
yeah, a day, every single day. Um, the they've made this like spiral staircase that's like made out of glass that wraps around the top of this building and goes up like, 5 levels. There's a restaurant up there. There's an observation deck. Like, so it sounds like you can already go out there and make a day of it at this place. Um, and so to use it as a backdrop for a cyclocross race is just spectacular. It's just as cool as it gets.
That is 1.2 million kilograms of steel a day.
Um,
Crazy.
I'm going to also include a link to just an article about the place and like what's going on with it in the here and now, because it's pretty interesting. But a really cool looking place, of course, Czech Republic, close to my heart because I did spend a number of months there in my heyday. So I never made it to Ostrava. I heard people talking about going to Ostrava to see stuff, but I never made it there. Uh, but I would like to, especially if there was a cyclocross race going on. That would be super, super cool. I'd love to ride that cyclocross course sometime. That would also be super cool. Um,
Maybe
so
maybe without the snow.
yeah, yeah. So beautiful though, but cool race. As I said, I didn't know anything about any of the riders in the men's race. I did know that the top favorite for the race, Michael Boros, was not on the start line due to an intestinal virus he woke up with that morning, which left the race wide open. Apparently, that guy was set to dominate that race, but came down to two guys at the end, Bazant and Jezek. And Bazant got the better of Jezek, who was quite furious at himself and just slamming the handlebars at the end of the race there, which I don't think that's a good look. I think if you want to slam the handlebars, wait till after the finish line because they got into the finishing straight. This guy knew almost immediately that he was licked. The other guy started sprinting ahead of him, and before either of them have crossed the finish line, he's already back there just like slamming his handlebars. And it wasn't it to me. It did not seem like a "you cut me off" kind of a slamming his handlebars. It felt like a God dang it, how did I lose this? Like I'm mad at myself
Yeah.
kind of thing. And it's like, dude, sprint it out to the line and then get mad at yourself. Like you're not doing yourself any favors, behaving like a petulant child because he
Agreed.
was like it was because it was just like prolonged. God, it's like, dude, all right, we get it. You're mad. Like should have beat him into the last corner. That's your own fault. Chill. Very cool, very cool thing to check out, though. Let's jump into, unless you had anything else
Nope.
on the Czech National Cyclocross Championships. Congratulations to Bazant. Uh, let's jump into some news items, starting with the Wout van Aert ankle sprain and fracture, which required surgery, which went well. L'Equipe reported that the injury was a bit more serious than they initially thought and could and likely would impact the start of his road season. It's going to be 4 to 6 weeks before he can work out on his home trainer. Uh, he's going to be in a leg brace. He's not going to be able to train on the road for a month or two.
I
Uh,
did see something yesterday where it's possible that he can get on the home trainer a little bit sooner depending on the recovery, but
Pro athletes always
yeah,
recover faster than us
right.
mere mortals as well. So there's that. But man, this guy and his luck, it's just really
Well,
Such a bummer.
especially considering that both him and Vanderpool went down in the same race in the snow, and of course Vanderpool is just fine and working his way towards a World Cup victory in cyclocross.
It's like they have an equal number of little mishaps on the bike, but every one of Van Aert's ends in, 19 weeks off the bike, and every one of Vanderpool's ends in him popping back onto the bike 5 seconds later and going on to win the race.
Yes,
I mean, that's literally what happened.
it's exactly what happened.
So, what do you got on your list?
The Sadal Quick Step Pro Racing team came to the rescue of a motorist on the side of the road during a training run.
I watched it.
Did you see the video?
What a bunch of good, nice young boys doing the
Eve Lampard videoed them pushing this woman that got onto like a concrete abutment, and they pushed her right off.
The car up on top of the thing. Yeah.
It was really neat.
The power of 10 insanely fit young dudes.
Yes, yeah.
They had the whole team right there.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
all packed.
The whole team. They were able to push the car off and physically, move it back onto the road, and it was pretty neat to watch. The really big news from this week, though, is the unexpected retirement of Giro d'Italia defending champion Simon Yates.
Yeah, did you see someplace that he is only the second ever defending champion of a Grand Tour to retire?
Yes,
and that the first one was Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, I think that's what Dan Lloyd said on the GCN Racing show, that it was
that seems almost impossible that those are the only two people who have ever retired while
defending.
Yeah. So
good on him. I still don't understand it. Like, I don't know if it's a heart's not in it type of thing. I mean, I don't know. It seems like you're coming off of a Grand Tour, a year where you won a Grand Tour and a stage in the Tour de France, and now you're retiring. I don't know.
I mean, I can easily see that this is a guy who, yes, he is coming off of a very strong season. At the beginning of the last season, he was not expecting a Tour de France stage win and a Giro d'Italia GC win by any means. Hoping, but not expecting at all. Mm-hmm. And to come out of that season with all of that, for all we know, he could have already had the retirement thought banging around in his head before the season even started. And now he's like, look what I just went out and did. That was perfect. I never thought that I'd add this to my palmares. I was already thinking about retiring. I've been doing this for the last 15 years of my life. This guy and this guy and this guy have all come to me with like opportunities and stuff to do. I got I'm chilling with my whatever. I don't even know if he's married or kids or whatever, but like he could just be like, this is perfect. I'm rolling.
He goes out on a high note, but you also have to wonder, it's happening so late in the transfer cycle that, it kind of leaves Visma with a big blank spot, as far as their, domestiques going into the season, because, you lose Yates, you lose Ken Uterbrooks,
Olaf Koy's out the window. That's not GC, but
yeah, but I'm thinking more along the lines of people that can. Now, mind you, look, he still has Sepp Kuss, he still has Matteo Jorgensen. You know what I'm saying? Like, he still has plenty of people, but it does make you kind of wonder: would Visma have treated the off season a little bit differently had they known that this was coming? Maybe they did know it was coming. I don't know. But you look, the guy had a tremendous career. He redeemed probably the biggest blind spot in his career with that Giro d'Italia win. And, I respect him for going out with his boots on.
You mean like where he lost it before?
Mm-hmm.
that whole storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely. So, I mean, what I'm saying is I don't find it that unsurprising. And then throw into it the whole, I mean, we just had this conversation about Caleb Ewan
Yeah.
in the last segment,
Maybe
or
his
the
heart
first
just wasn't in it.
segment. And maybe he was just like, I have a lot more on the line now. I'm a more mature person. I have, again, I don't know what his family situation is, if he's got wife, kids, or whatever, but maybe it's just like, I'm done. My Palmares is secured, and I don't want to keep putting myself at risk.
I mean, it's
You know,
definitely a
it's
fair
still
possibility.
it's an extremely dangerous sport. Um,
Well, I mean,
so
and we as we know, because we've seen, especially over the last few years, we've got multiple deaths, in this,
yeah.
inside of the sport. So it'll be very interesting to see. Now, look, he's a very well spoken guy too. I'd love to see him pop up somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All these guys, these people that we come to love over the course of their careers as they retire. We're gonna have fingers crossed, hoping they somehow stay in the world.
Hmm.
Speaking of which, Dan Lloyd also dropped that nugget about Tom Dumoulin becoming the director of
Yeah.
the Amstel Gold Race. I'm like, yeah, I like that.
Yes.
I like
I
that.
like Tommy
Dumoulin
Dumoulin.
is director of
Yeah.
Amstel Gold.
Um, the other big transfer news is that Derek G finally found himself a home at Little Trek after much, a lot of like nonsensical contractual bullshit, just to keep it keep it brief. But um, he is now on his way to Little Trek with Juan Ayuso. So there is a team that is just absolutely stacked.
And
Poor,
Skelmos.
poor Skelly.
I think I think I think I think Ciccone is gone. I'll look that up real quick. But
So
yeah, still that's a pretty powerful trio of GC.
yeah, and he had a great year last year. Like I know that we don't really think about it, but he won O Grand Camino. He was fourth on GC at Treno Adriatico, third on GC at the Tour of the Alps, fourth on GC at the Giro, second in the Canadian National Championship individual time trial, and he is the current Canadian champion. So yet another, national jersey for a Little
Love
Trek
that.
to trot out.
And Giulio Ciccone is indeed still on Lidl Trek through 2027.
So yeah, I mean they got some hitters on that team, dude. They got some
Yeah.
hitters on that team. Um, that brings me to the other kind of like thing. As I was doing my roundup, I came across an article by Finn Major, a opinion piece, and these were his 5 best transfers of the year. And we already went through this, so we'll just hit them each real quick because there is no more surprise in this list for you like there was yesterday.
Hang on just a second
Sure.
before you get to that, though. I just looked at Derek G's picture at PCS, and the Canadian national jersey that he is wearing in that picture is an absolute disaster.
No.
It has got the Lidl logo on the chest. It's got Trek below it. It's got another something below that, and then below that, way down about like an inch and a half above his penis, is a sad little red maple leaf. That is pathetic. The Canadian national jersey should have the maple leaf itself emblazoned across the chest in large format, and anything else is a travesty. Are you looking at it?
I am looking at it.
That is a
His
disaster.
Israel. So if you click
Please.
into it,
Right.
the photos, the one for Israel Premier Tech was way better.
Yeah, exactly. That's what a Canadian national jersey should look like. And I just pray to God that that is not the
that was
final
just
version.
like some sort of like AI version.
Something, yeah, exactly. Something they threw together. I just really, because oh my God,
Yeah, I
that's
mean, there's no reason you couldn't put the little Trek part on the red maple leaf.
yeah, exactly. Although maybe I don't know, maybe there's some rule. Maybe Canada's got a rule about you can't mess with our maple leaf. Who knows?
You can't sully the leaf. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, looking over Derek G's succession of photographs as he rode for Lidl Trek. It's like somewhat serious, and then smile, 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 and now he's or yeah, and now he's back. He's on the
Back to
new team.
serious.
He's looking serious. He's ready to go. He's on Lidl Trek now. He's done playing around with these IPT fools. The former Israel Premier Tech, now NSN, and he's ready to go. I can't wait to watch. I cannot wait to watch Lidl Trek this season. That's
Yeah,
going to be one of the
and
best
decathlon.
storylines of the year.
Little Trek and decathlon are the ones to watch, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right. So give me that
All
list
right,
again.
so I think we all agree that the number one Remco to Red Bull is by far the biggest transfer of the year.
No question.
It has been talked about, and
One of the biggest ever.
at this point, it is just a matter of it's time to put the rubber on the road and see what he can do.
Yeah.
And I think we would also both agree at number two, Juan Ayuso to the aforementioned Little Trek, really gives them a solid number one guy to go after. And they have a stable of riders that can rival any of these major teams. You know what I mean? And the reality is if he's not going up against Jonas or Tade, he has just as much of a chance to win as anybody else.
Yeah.
Number three is the aforementioned two decathlon, one sprinter, du jour, Olav Koy. Again, a move that we kind of foresaw pretty early on last year when Brennan was having so much success with Visma that, and considering that his contract was up and they are not a sprint heavy team, that he would likely go somewhere, and we were correct. He went to Decathlon's new, it's not AG2R anymore. It's, Decathlon CBD PSPS, 4566.
LGBTQ. I love the fact though that Visma is just not left in a lurch at all, because like as Olav Koy exits, Matthew Brennan, moves into the spot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
And they signed Matthew Brennan to a longer term contract. They restructured his deal to give him room to breathe and room to develop, and he doesn't have to worry about where he's going to be in the next couple of years. So
do we know if he's going to the Tour de France?
We do not know that yet. So I think what we're going to see is whatever team he takes to the Giro is probably the team that he's taking to the Tour, is my guess.
Yeah.
So it remains to be seen. Number 4 on this one is Bruno Amarai to Visma Lease Bike. I think this is big for them. I think that he is going to be a really nice, addition to that team.
Who was he riding for before, like FDJ or something?
No, wasn't he at Astana?
Maybe.
Double check that. But I think this is a good move for them. It brings them. It brings it's a addition. Addition by subtraction for them. They they lose a piece, but then they fill in. They fill in a nice piece. And they lost some veteran guys in Van Barl and a couple other. Van Barl and Benoot they lost this year. So it brings in another veteran guy to round out that roster for them.
I can't look up Bruno Amarai because I just don't know how to spell that guy's name.
It's Armi Rail, Army Rail.
Oh, AR. I was putting
Yep.
AM
Yep.
first. Um,
Army Rail.
he was on Decathlon,
Oh yes, yeah, that makes sense.
but before that, it was Groupama FDJ. Okay.
And then the fifth most, fifth biggest transfer is Ken Utebrooks to Movistar. Really good for Movistar because this gives them a legitimate, shot at especially some of the smaller stage races. And I have said here on the podcast before that I think that Ken Utebrooks, a healthy Ken Utebrooks is a lot better than people realize, and he has had a hard. It was hard. It was not a good fit with Visma with him because I don't think that they knew what to do with him. I think he was better than he wasn't for them. He wasn't better than their other options for Domestique, and so it just ended up that they didn't know what to do with him. And now I think he's going to get the leadership role. He's got Enrique Mas for support and to that veteran chutzpah, but
Mhm.
I think I think it's a good move for him, and I think that he could be successful. I really do.
Yeah, hopefully it works out. He's able to settle down there. I mean, he's not going to have quite the powerhouse resources behind him of a team like Visma Lease Bike.
But maybe he doesn't need it.
Exactly. Hopefully his personality can gel with the way they run things there, and it's a good fit for him. You've also got the Il Patrone Juan Pedro Lopez going to that team, who will be a good guy to have by his side. And Ricky Moss can move into that road captain kind of a role. Uh, here's to him. Hoping for the
Absolutely.
best. Hoping for the best for those guys.
And that's really all I got on the news.
Um, cool. Let's take a quick break and then we'll jump into our broom wagon. Stay with us. We are back. It's broom wagon time. Justin, what do you got?
Jonas Vingegaard is already planning for his retirement. I know that it seems like it must be years away, but he is becoming quite the Danish real estate magnate. He is he has picked up his fourth and fifth properties in his hometown. So he is definitely on his way to planning for his retirement. But it's such a Jonas thing in my opinion that he just makes such practical decisions. You know what I mean? He's just it's the most Jonas thing ever. So
Absolutely. I love it. It's just I want him to be the mayor of his
I
town.
know, right?
I want him to buy the canning factory that he once worked at when before he became the
When
champion
he
of the
was a
Tour de France.
fishmonger, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like the whole thing. I just want him to be, I just want him to grow old as the man of this town. It's beautiful. Uh, for my wagon today, I just want to point out a couple of I've mentioned before how certain sports, tennis comes to mind, basketball to a certain extent, and certainly professional football. I'm fans of all of these sports. I love the action. I love watching the 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 sport well executed. I love a great play in football or amazing shot in basketball. What sign me up. However, I don't have the time or the bandwidth to devote a lot of time to any of these sports, and so I've become a giant fan of watching these very, very perfectly made YouTube highlight reels where they basically give you every good play of the entire game and not a whole lot else in between. But I, on the really good ones, they'll give you the replay. You know what I mean? So you get everything you want and nothing that you don't want. Um, and so I love watching these because I get the whole game in anywhere from 12 to 18 minutes. And there happened to be a string of really, really exciting wild games at the end of the pro football season. So I'm going to link to all of these games and just give you a brief overview of these three games. So to set the stage, you got to go back a couple of weeks. There was a Thursday night stunner of a game between the Rams and the Seahawks that went into overtime. Just a crazy moment with a disputed call on a 2 point point after attempt. That it was just wild, like how how the whole thing played out, and then lead changes, et cetera, et cetera. Then the second one was one that I know that you either saw or you caught the highlights of, Ravens Steelers in Week 18 with a playoff berth on the line for both of these teams. And just a crazy, crazy game. You wanna summarize that?
Yeah,
one?
I mean, essentially, it comes down to the Steelers miss an extra point with Boswell, and this guy he doesn't miss extra points, so it's a fluke. It's some insane streak, 40 games plus something or other like that. And then, and again, of course, it's Heinz Field, it's Pittsburgh, and, they're kicking in the open end of the stadium. It's very windy. I've had many experiences there. The Ravens missed their field goal, and, which is crazy. It was a chip shot. You know what I mean? There was nothing there. So they lose, and that ends up resulting in them firing John Harbaugh, which in my opinion was the biggest loss of the week, because of it.
Right. I have to shout out the 4th and 7 do or die situation where Jackson connects with Isaiah Likely, just miracle fingertip grab that sets up that field goal chip shot. Incredible play. The other one is Bears Packers, the wild card game that took place last weekend. Another super, super exciting game. That one, just go to the replay if you want to see just another fantastic one. I don't want to get into it too deeply. We got the final wild card game last night that was featuring one of these two teams, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know if we should spoil or not. I guess it's no big deal.
No, it's no big deal. They got spanked.
Steelers got spanked hard last night by the who was it that spanked them real hard?
Oh, what, last night was
yeah.
The Texans.
We're both useless.
CJ Stroud. CJ
Yeah.
Stroud and the
Well,
Texans.
To be
And
quite honest,
in my opinion, this is probably at least everybody in Pittsburgh is calling for Mike Tomlin's job. So this could be the end of Tomlin's.
the death knell. The
Yeah.
death knell. Well, I mean, let's face it. They got lucky. They got lucky twice in that game, including the winning moment of the game when the guy missed an unbelievably just should not have missed field goal. So they were lucky to be in that wild card game to begin with.
Now, mark my words, the Steelers don't fire coaches. So it'll be interesting to see if he decides to retire.
Yeah. So, but check out those links if you want to see some recaps of some great games. That's going to be all for this week. Join us next week for a full review of the 2026 Women's Santos Tour Down Under, the opening event of the pro cycling season, which kicks off this coming weekend on Wollonga Hill. And we'll also be drafting our teams of riders for our inaugural Team Bus Fantasy Cycling Contest. So until then, for my brother Justin, I'm Matt Harper. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us again soon for another ride on the Team Bus. Ale. The Team Bus is a production of Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please like and subscribe, smash that button, leave a 5-star review, and most importantly, tell all your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Ale!